All right, the May 20th Fayette County Board of Education is now in session. We're going to start with a moment of reflection. We can think about the people who need lifted up and the things we're grateful for in our lives. Thank you. I now want to welcome from Fayetteville Elementary, the Cubs, who are going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. We will follow their directions. All right, next up we have the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir. I have one modification. I'd like to request moving our executive session to item 7F for the purpose of property discussion and employee considerations. Everything else is the same. We'd recommend the board approve.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the agenda with the change?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, now comes to the one of the things we always enjoy doing most as a board, our recognitions, and I'm going to turn it over to Melinda Berry-Dreisbach.
Well, good evening, everybody, and happy last week of school. And thank you all for coming out. I know everybody's very busy with this last week, but we have a lot of great recognitions, so we're going to jump right into those. Our first recognition for the evening is our National Spanish Examinations. And just let me tell you a little bit about these examinations. We always have a great number of our high school students participating in these examinations every year. And they are administered by the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese. The examinations are the largest of their kind in the United States, and so therefore earning a medal in this competition, it's very prestigious and it's very much an honor. This is very impressive. Collectively, across the county, our students won 100 medals. And these students are from McIntosh High, Stars Mill High, and Whitewater High schools. And I will give you a breakdown of the medal count. We brought home 16 golds, 37 silvers, and 47 bronze medals. And tonight we're going to recognize all of our gold medal winners. And they are from McIntosh and Stars Mill High. And we will start with McIntosh High School. Tonight with us we have Tyler Schmidt, Kyoto Takeda, Adelaide Barrett, Valeria Moncada, Zach Stone, Megan Uzinski, Carolyn Zhang, Mariela Jimenez Escobar, and Shiho Kim. And their teachers are Maria Ramsey, Lecter Zamor, and Teresa Tugneri. Congratulations. Now moving to Stars Mill, we have Heather Hernandez, Samantha Ludwig, Jacob Velez, Virginia Jackson, Kyle Robinson, and Caleb Warnock. And their teachers are Laura Aldridge, Madeline Rodriguez, and Marcella Sample. Congratulations. Yes, that way. Okay, next we're going to recognize our winner from the Georgia Science and Engineering Fair. If I may have Mark Vencel come forward, please. We actually had two first place winners, but our other winner from McIntosh High, William Danley, could not be here tonight, but he took first place in the senior division. But with us tonight is Mark Vencel, and he's from J.C. Booth Middle School, and he took first place in the junior division. And in addition to that, Mark also earned some special awards. He was named a Broadcom Masters nominee. He received the Sigma Chi CDC Chapter Public Health Science Award and the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers Atlanta Section Award for Materials and Bioengineering. So congratulations to Mark. Okay, next up are our winners of the American Institute of Architects High School Design Competition. If I may have them come forward. They're not here? Okay. All right, we will skip over them, but both of them are from McIntosh High School, and they actually had three winners, and we knew one could not be here tonight, but he won in the beginning level, and then the two who were going to be here tonight actually won in the advanced group level. And their challenge was to design a bridge over the Chattahoochee River. That was the beginner part, and then the advanced part was to actually build a science center, so this bridge would connect over the Chattahoochee to the science center, and these students won first place in that, so that was pretty phenomenal. But we will get them their certificates. Okay, next up, if we can have our Skills USA students come forward. Hey, we have 5 students from Sandy Creek High School who won first place at the Skills USA Georgia State Leadership and Skills Conference. And these students have qualified to compete at the national level this summer. They are the only students representing Fayette County at the national competition. Before I introduce them to you, I want to let you know that the Sandy Creek Skills USA chapter was named a Georgia Skills USA Gold Chapters of Distinction for a 5th consecutive year. And with that being said, they are now in the running to be named a Skills USA National Model of Excellence. And this chapter has previously won the national award 3 times, and this is the 5th consecutive year that the chapter has won the state level award. So we want to congratulate all of our chapter members for that. So now let's give them a round of applause. Now let me introduce you to our gold medal winners. They are Liberty Harris, Gianna Fan, and Kayla Brooks, and all 3 of them won gold in promotional bulletin board. Also, we have Hannah Allmeyer, who took gold in advertising design, and Brandon Goins, who took gold in t-shirt design. And their advisor is Jeff Dykes. And Liberty was elected to state office, so the awards just keep rolling in for the Sandy Creek Skills USA team. And we know we will see them back here in August because I'm sure they're going to rack up medals at the national competition. Yeah. Congratulations. Okay, next, also from Sandy Creek, may I have our National History Day competitors come forward, please? I'm sorry? You're the Econ Challenge? It's okay. We are a little bit out of order. History Day. Oh, there we are. I'm the one out of order. Those are Econ Challenge? Yep. Okay, right here I am. All right. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, for a second consecutive year, students from Sandy Creek High have successfully shown their strength in knowledge of economic principles and their ability to apply problem-solving and critical thinking skills to real-world situations. They took first place at the Georgia Economics Challenge in the David Ricardo Division, and this is for students participating in the competition for the very first time. And our winners are Arise Saison and Anna Pate. And their teacher is Stephen Slocum. Congratulations. Okay, now if we can have the Georgia National History Day competitors come forward, please, also from Sandy Creek. Okay, after placing at the top of their events in a series of contests at the local and state level, we have 6 students from Sandy Creek High School who will represent Fayette County and Georgia at the National History Day contest this summer near Washington, D.C. We had a total of 15 projects from Sandy Creek High, Whitewater High, and Bennett's Mill Middle that advanced to the state competition, but only the students from Sandy Creek won placements. Both first and second place winners advanced to the national competition, and so tonight we're going to recognize our first place winners from the state competition. And first up, we have Jimena Molina in websites. Stokely Dennis, Jason Davis, Brian Ewan, and Ethan Toon, all in documentary. And their teacher is Patience Douglas. Congratulations.
Good job.
Okay, now if I may have our Social Studies Fair winner from Bennett's Mill Middle come forward. Okay, after a school year's worth of research and study, Matthew Boholz of Bennett's Mill Middle was one of 24 contestants at the Georgia Social Studies Fair to win a Best in Discipline award. And this award is given to the best project in each discipline in each class. Matthew's project addressed, and this should be a concern for all of us, how do cell phones affect your health? So I'd be interested to hear about that, Matthew. This contest is sponsored by the Georgia Council for the Social Studies. Fair entries are a collaboration between teachers and students on the study of people and their relationships to their physical and social environments. And his teacher is Cora Davis. Congratulations. Okay, next, if I may have our stock market winners from Robert J. Birch come forward, please. Okay, now I want you to take a very good look at these students here, these young men, because if you want to increase your financial portfolio, you might want to get some advice from you might want to get some advice from them before they run out of the boardroom this evening. Okay, these students made $9,000 in a 10-week period playing the stock market game. Okay, not only that, but also let me tell you, this is the largest gain for any elementary team from Fayette County and Congressional District 3. And last year we had Inman Elementary here, and at that time they held the record. They made $4,000 in a 10-week period, so this group more than doubled what they did. Okay, and in this competition, students take a hypothetical $100,000 and they invested in stocks for 10 weeks. And then, of course, the students with the highest gains from each congressional district are named the champions of that congressional district. And of course, like I said earlier, our students won the championship for the 3rd congressional district. And let me introduce you to them. We have Sean Neal, Trent Conrad, Omar Gansey, and Corey Hadley, and their teacher, Vanetta Jones. Congratulations.
Good job, guys.
Okay, now if I may have our captains and our coaches from the Flat Rock track and field team come forward, please. Okay. I understand that exactly 1 week ago tonight, we had a very exciting competition for Fayette County's middle school track and field athletes. The boys and girls track team at Flat Rock Middle, they continue to defend their championship status by once again taking the Fayette County Middle School Track and Field Championship. And this is both the boys and the girls. And we're gonna talk about the girls first, and then we'll get to the guys. But this marks the 3rd consecutive year that our boys have won the championship. And it is the 2nd consecutive year for the girls. Now, last year, they made history at the school by winning the championship for the very first time. And now that they have a taste of victory, they're just not going to let go of that. And the girls, they won by scoring 99 points. And the boys dominated their competition by scoring 108 points. The girls team, they're here in the audience with us tonight, so can I ask you guys to stand so that we can give you a round of applause? We have certificates for all of the team members, but for the sake of time, we are going to let the coaches distribute those to you later, and right now we're going to award the captains their certificates. And our captains for the girls team are Isis Grant and Angel Johnson. And coaches, we will get to you in just a few minutes right after we do the boys. I'll go ahead and hand you the certificates for the girls. Okay, and for the boys team, They are, I'm guessing they're in the audience. Oh, they're over there. They're standing up. They're already standing. So let's give them a round of applause. And again, for the sake of time, we're going to get them their certificates later. And right now, we will award certificates to the captains. And we have Giovanni Simmons and Trevius Franklin. And their coaches are Jameer Latimer, Regina Evans, Centara Tyler, and Dale Smotherman. You're welcome. Okay. Congratulations. Thank you. Are you going to do service pins? Are you doing service pins? Okay. All right. They're in the basket. Where would you like to see? Some over on the bed. Okay, that concludes our student recognitions, and now we're going to move into some very special employee recognitions. This is a very special group of employees who have devoted a large part of their careers, and in some cases, their entire careers, to our school system. Of course, students are the driving force of our school system. We wouldn't exist without them. However, we also would not have a school system without teachers to teach them, school bus drivers to transport them, school nutrition workers to feed them, custodians to keep the buildings clean and safe, and other staff members who assist with the running of the day-to-day operations needed to keep our school system functioning. This evening, we are recognizing those employees who have given 25, 30, and 35 years of service to our school system. This is just they're each going to receive a commemorative pin that will have their years of service on it. And this is just a small token of our appreciation for their dedication, their hard work, and willingness to share themselves and their talents with our students, both directly and indirectly, each and every day. And we really appreciate all that you guys do. So when I call your name, will you please come forward and receive your pin? And we're going to start with the 25-year pins. First up, we have Margaret Bernard. She's a teacher at Huddleston Elementary. Robert Burton, teacher at J.C. Booth Middle. Donna Busey, teacher, Robert J. Birch Elementary. Lucy Coleman, teacher, Huddleston Elementary. Ellen Crawley, school nutrition program, Flat Rock Middle. Marilyn Ellis, teacher, Sandy Creek High. Walter Ellison, teacher, Stars Mill High. Kathy Folden Handley, teacher, Bennett's Mill Middle. Marcia Glass, teacher, Robert J. Birch Elementary. I don't think she's here. Krista Goss, teacher, Robert J. Birch Elementary. Amy Henley, teacher support specialist, county office, student achievement. Sonia Hodgson, paraprofessional, Huddleston Elementary. Stephanie Lemons, teacher, Kedron Elementary. Louise Martin, teacher, Flat Rock Middle. Joseph McElruth, mechanic, transportation, county office. Tim Miller, teacher, Fayette County High. Jeffrey Patterson, assistant principal, Whitewater Middle. Mike Satterfield, facilities director, county office, facility services. Mary Smith, assistant principal, Sandy Creek High. Beverly Smithson, teacher, Sarah Hart Mentor Elementary. Angela Southers, principal, Cleveland Elementary. Andre Sparks, teacher, Flat Rock Middle. Teresa Teague, teacher, Robert J. Birch Elementary. Linda Williams, assistant principal, Peoples Elementary. Zaylee Williams, teacher, Fayette County High. Now we're going to move to our employees with 30 years of service. And they are Robin Drury, teacher, Whitewater Middle. Carol Gibby, teacher, Flat Rock Middle School. Suzanne Givens, teacher, Kedron Elementary. Jody Hubert, teacher, Spring Hill Elementary. Robin Kaiser, teacher, Braylon Elementary. Carol Long, teacher, Huddleston Elementary. Brenda Stokes, special education specialist, county office, exceptional children's services. And last but certainly not least, we have one employee here tonight with 35 years of service. And she is Brenda Mask. She's a bus driver for our Transportation Services Department. Congratulations to you all, and once again, we truly appreciate everything that each of you do all day, every day for our students and for our school system. Thank you.
And on the board's behalf, we also thank you for your service and dedication. All right. Let's just do it straight through. All right, we'll now get ready for the public comment portion of the meeting. And the FCBOE welcomes and encourages citizens to attend its meetings as part of its general operating procedure. The board offers an opportunity for Fayette County residents, businesses, organizations, school system employees, or students to address the board at its regular business meeting. The public comment period is designed to gain input from the public pursuant to the guidelines outlined in policy BCBI and not for immediate responses by the board to the public comments presented.
Scott, the mic, I don't think they can hear you. Your mic's not working right. They're giving me a flag in the back. Jim, is there any way to turn the mic up?
Speakers will have up to 3 minutes to make their presentations. A timer is visible from the podium. Please conclude your remarks when the buzzer sounds. When several individuals wish to address the same topic or issue, the group is encouraged to designate a spokesperson. The board will not permit anyone to become personally abusive of an individual student, board members, or board employees. The board will take comments and questions under advisement, and responses, if needed, will be provided by the superintendent. Please come to the podium when your number is called. State your name and address before beginning your presentation, and the timer will begin when you start your statement. So our first speaker, it looks like it's, and forgive me about this, Arid Pombalamba.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Arvind Panamalan. My address is 201 Carriage Lane. I'd like to respectfully voice my concerns for the proposal concerning the new Booth Middle School, its proposed size and location. The concerns I have are primarily due to its massive size and the traffic constraints it will place on our current infrastructure. In our current state, the intersection of Carriage Lane and Route 54 will likely get very, very congested at around 233. And as it stands now, there is already a lot of congestion moving towards Peachtree City with traffic backed up past the library, headed towards Fayetteville. So I think this would just further bottleneck that situation. On top of that, McIntosh High School, as you all know, is right across the street from Carriage Lane currently, and would also compound the traffic situation on that particular intersection. Our neighborhood does not have another entry point, and it could potentially cause significant issues for our residents leaving or entering our neighborhood. So that's what I would like to have the board consider when moving forward with your plans. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ankur Patel.
Good evening. My name is Ankur Patel. I'm also a resident of Carriage Lane at 200 Carriage Lane, and I have my neighbor, Joey Petrus, who's also a member of our neighborhood, who's actually going to do the speaking for us.
Yeah, Joey Petrus. I live at 303 Land O'Lake Court, so down the road. And I know some of you. First, I'd say thanks for serving. I know what you guys are trying to do, and you have the kids' interest at best at heart, and so we appreciate that. My concern is more from a cost perspective. I know there was an analysis done comparing renovating the existing booth with building the new school. My concern with that is, and I encourage you on this board, if you haven't done so, I hope you will take the time to drive down Stagecoach Road and take a look at the piece of property that the school's proposed for. My issue is more infrastructure improvements that are going to be required as a result of this, and who's going to pay for that. Because it's my understanding that the comparison that was done was renovating booth versus building a new booth, did not take into consideration the significant infrastructure improvements that will have to be made down Stagecoach Lane Road, Carriage Lane, if the houses are taken out and the roads extended, and then the intersection of Robinson Road and 54 and Carriage Lane and 54. And I think what Arvind and Encore, their concern is you guys creating another 5474 at, Carriage Lane and 54. We all know the issues that they've had over there with two big schools and the size of the school. That's a concern for us. The second thing I wanted to bring up, it's my understanding that the state Board of Education will fund 30 to 80% of a new school. And I just want to make sure that you guys are going through the steps to get the funding through the state Board of Education for this, because I would hate to have a situation similar to what we had with this Pinewood Elementary School. I can't recall what it was called at the time, River Oak, Riverwood, whatever it was, where just Fayette County money was used and state school system money wasn't used. If we've got the ability for 30 to 80% to be funded by the state school system, I sure hope that the board, the superintendent, you guys are going through that process with the state in order to secure that funding so it doesn't fall on the taxpayers. Kind of back to the same concern I was having about the infrastructure improvements. Because if you tell me the new school is going to cost $40 million, but it's going to cost $35 million to redo the existing booth, but then we have to pay another $20 million in infrastructure improvements, in my mind, the new schools cost $60 million and not $40 million. And at the end of the day, that's going to fall on the taxpayer. And maybe I'm a little disgruntled because I just got my trim notice from the Board of Assessors and my property value went up again. I know that's not under your control, but the reality of it is spending the money, taxpayer dollars. From my perspective, I don't care if it comes out of my right pocket or my left. So just from a cost perspective, please take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Manwaring?
Thank you. I am Larry Manwaring, and I'm with my wife, Linda. She's a 34-year employee of Fayette County Schools. Many of those years she was in a middle school, over 20 years, in fact. I'm a former middle school principal and teacher myself, and middle school education has been our lives. I have two daughters. Both are teachers. It is our life. It's what we believe in. We believe in what y'all are doing for the children of Fayette County, and we thank you for that. I do, however, have some solid concerns about the new Booth Middle School. One big concern I have is why build such a huge school on the extreme eastern part of Peachtree City, causing significant traffic concerns that have been addressed, causing people to end up traveling across the city. I'm told that only about 20 students will be able to walk to school from that site. That makes me pause. It makes me pause because of size of the school. As a middle school principal myself, I know that you've got to have a school big enough to accommodate the experimental classes, the exploratory classes, or whatever they're called today. You've got to do that. But at the same time, you can't let a school get too big where it becomes impersonal, intimidating, and children fall through the cracks. Middle school children need a place where they feel comfortable, where they're willing to explore, try different things, and find out what kind of people they want to become. I sincerely believe a huge middle school will not benefit our children. Another concern that I have is the infrastructure that was mentioned. We're going to build a school, or talking about it, This is the end of a dead-end road. One way in, one way out, through a residential area, through a difficult intersection that had 37 accidents in the last 3 years, according to the city studies. Can you imagine how many we'll have in the future? Can you imagine if we will have sufficient access to provide emergency help and support? Will we be able to get the fire trucks in, the police in, the medical in when we need it? I don't know. I hope so. The other thing, real quickly, is I would hope, it just seems to make sense that perhaps we should build the road or find a place where there is success, already established infrastructure prior to building the school.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Diana Perlier.
Hi, my name's Diana Perlier. I live at 450 South Peachtree Parkway. I am a parent of 2 students in this county. Love our schools, love our community. The love I have of our community and schools encouraged me to get a job with the county, so I am a county employee. So it is with this in mind that it's kind of with a heavy heart I've had to express concerns about things that I've come to know about improprieties in the financial accounting of educational funds. As my only option to be heard was to come and speak publicly at this meeting. As you are aware through statements that have already been provided to you, there are some major issues of impropriety that have been raised that need to be investigated by this board. Each of you, as an elected official, has a duty to represent the needs of the children in our county and to assure proper financial accounting for educational expenditures and tax dollars. I am aware through my work and direct involvement with the finance department that East Bloss funds are being commingled with other accounts, which is against state law. In addition, these funds are being misappropriated and used to generate revenue through interest-bearing accounts, where, to my knowledge, there is no accounting for the interest-bearing dollars, and to be clear, I am referring to millions of dollars. This is where East Bloss funds are being transferred from secondary accounts into other institutions for the sole purpose of generating income from those funds. The funds are then being held in the secondary accounts and are only transferred when, right now, me, the bookkeeper, primarily wants them for payments of such funds. I have to request it. The interest being drawn off these East Bloss funds is not accounted for and is not budgeted for and is not disclosed to the taxpayers for whom this money is to be accountable to. This is all in addition to employee expense claims that are being paid without proper supervisor and/or board approval. As the county grows, as we're witnessing, and revenues increase, there must be more accountability to ensure the quality education that our county is known for and that we witnessed today at this meeting. This misappropriation and pretty illegal commingling of funds serves as a direct attack against our ability to continue to provide the quality education that should be provided to our children. The board has a list of all the documents that would be needed to investigate this matter, and I implore you to take serious your positions as elected officials to represent the best interests of the education of our children. Thank you.
Okay. Janice Jones.
I'm Janice Jones. I'm at 155 Roxbury Ridge. I'm here today. I have my daughter here who is a member of the Beta Club, which is a leadership organization, and I wanted her to come and see how government works and how accountability works. And also, just to, I guess, implore you as elected officials and the position that you have, as well as the example that you have to students like her. Based upon the information that you have heard today, I also, as a taxpayer in this county, as a resident and a parent of a student, ask for you to investigate this matter. I recognize that there have been documents and Open Records Act already provided to you, provided to the county to identify the documents that need to be used to investigate. And I really hope and implore you to do so. For the sake of our children, for the sake of them who are watching and want to know that we have a county of integrity and a county of accountability. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Scott Austinson?
Good evening. I'm going to speak very quickly. Some of you have heard me speak before. I'm going to speak a lot more quickly. I'm Scott Austinson. I live at 301 Landaulet Court in Peachtree City. I am a parent, and I do want to make clear that I'm speaking to you tonight as a parent. Some of you know that I used to be the Chief Financial Officer of the Department of Education for 13 years. In part of that role, I actually was required to train local board members. Some of you I remember from our classes. And you may remember we walked through, not a whole lot of it, but we walked through QBE funding and we walked through capital outlay funding, which is bond funding for school construction. And one of the things I mentioned to you is you will be shocked to find out how little control you have over your money, which means you must have a strategic plan. We recommended at the time. Have a strategic plan, know your priorities. And Dr. Barrow, by the way, was one of the examples we used in a prior district of great budgeting with respect to having prioritization. Know your priorities and know what you're going to spend, and that is incredibly important. What I was not able to tell you as a Chief Financial Officer, which I am going to tell you as a parent, is what I think the priorities are. My priorities in Fayette County as a parent and taxpayer are two things. First, safety. Second, student achievement. Anything else in my mind is a distraction. So I have two concerns about this new Booth Elementary School. Yes, of course, it relates to money and how it's being funded. I think Mr. Petrus raises a good question. We can look at that later. But money itself and also the size. I don't know if you read the paper yesterday, but in the Sunday article of the AJC, there was an article that showed on the front page of the Metro section a Gwinnett County teacher who was stabbed, an 8th grade teacher in her classroom. There were 2 other teachers who had been assaulted in their classrooms in a middle school. I'm here to tell you that middle school is a very challenging environment. I'm not sure that putting 1,000 kids plus an additional 50%, 1,500 kids, middle school kids at that, into a large building is good for safety. Secondly, I'm going to remind you, some of you remember we were talking about the progress score. When I was a Chief Financial Officer and my daughter was in the 6th grade, Booth Middle School had a progress score, which is the academic achievement score, in my view, the most appropriate because it actually looks at test scores, that was below the state of Georgia average. And yet when I went to find out what Fayette County was going to do about it, because I was certain that you would delegate prioritized resources, there was no mention of it. The comment from the public comment was, all of our schools taken as a group are above the state average in academic achievement. That was simply not true. So my question is, knowing that there are questions about having a giant school, knowing in my mind that the progress score indicated that Booth was a bad school academically, what are you thinking with having 1,500 schools? And I don't mean that rhetorically. I mean, look at the longitudinal data that comes to you, that the State Board of Education provides to you, and try to make the case for, and make sure you're considering, what does 1,500 students mean for academic achievement? Have we understood what happened to Booth? I'm going to tell you, maybe I'm biased, my daughter was there. I don't think the kids at Booth were worse than all the other middle schools in Fayette County at the time. I think it's because you had 1,000 students. Oh, by the way, I think the teachers were good too. You had 1,000 students in a very challenging environment, so please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ted Lord.
Hello. Hello. Okay. My name is Ted Lord. These are my colleagues, and we are working to transition Macintosh to solar energy. Macintosh is a school of forward-thinking students that results in constant innovation. We are one of the top 20 public high schools in Georgia, and top 1,000 public high schools in the nation. These merits that define the school do not happen automatically. A unique excellence is cemented in the foundation of McIntosh, which has sparked students to do great things. It is this excellence that has inspired us to think that we can change how our school is powered. We believe McIntosh can, should, and will be solar powered. Our class and those who follow us will have to create a more responsible society powered by sustainable sources of electricity, such as the sun. In fact, nearly 5,500 K-12 schools are now using solar. That means nearly 4 million students are educated in a building operating on the sun. Today, U.S. News and World Report lists McIntosh as the 543rd best high school out of an estimated 26,000 public high schools in the United States. Yet we are not one of the 5,500 solar schools. This number of schools will only continue to increase as the cost of panels decrease. Because of this school's energy use, forward thinking, and strive for excellence, we believe McIntosh stands only to gain to transition to solar. This is not energy for McIntosh High School itself, but rather the McIntosh students who grow and learn in this building and who will soon lead a cleaner and smarter world. Thank you. This presentation is divided up into 3 main parts: why, how, and cost and savings. Why being the reasons why McIntosh should go solar, how being the detailed plan of execution, and the cost and savings, including the amount of money that McIntosh spent on electricity last year, how much we used in the form of kilowatt hours, the cost estimate to make McIntosh solar, and the expected ROI time, return on investment. With that being said, I will give the stage to Mon Shah, which will tell you the first and second reason why McIntosh should go solar. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, so I'm on, and then, okay, I don't know if you guys want, okay. So one of the big reasons that we want to move to solar is because of the ecological benefits. Solar being energy derived directly from the sun, there's no additional emissions created as we generate the energy throughout the life of the solar panel, right? The solar panels, like warranty, depending on what panels you get, range from 20 to 30 years, and our return on investment time is estimated around 6, maybe 7 years. And so past that 6 to 7 years, we're going to be generating like energy for the school without creating any additional emissions as coal and other like grid powers like do create. Okay, and another big part of the ecological benefit is that it's a self-sustainable system, right? As soon as we have the solar panels running during the daytime, like the peak energy demand for the school, we'll have the solar panels running at peak efficiency because the sun is going to be strongest during that time. And during the summer months when we're not in session, the solar panels could be a revenue source because like this, the building does not need as much energy because the classrooms are in function. And finally, McIntosh transitioning to solar would definitely provide a solar role model for other schools, right? Since McIntosh is located in a prime spot for solar, which we'll discuss later, and already has a respected academic program, becoming a solar school will accelerate the transition to sustainable sources of energy in the future for other schools as well. It'll be a good role model for other Fayette County schools and Metro Atlanta schools overall. Okay. Additionally, in addition to the ecological benefits, there's also educational benefits because of the inherent technological, scientific, and reasoning aspects of solar panels. Students can learn about how solar panels function, with the mathematics behind return on investment times, and plenty of additional things like installation costs and maintenance operatives, right? So all these jobs, career outputs, can definitely be discussed in relation to solar as a result of the building itself. And in addition, we could discuss the plan of execution from a business perspective as well, sort of a training for, ground for additional projects. And then moreover, the new Booth School could also benefit from such a plan because it's still in the works right now. It would be much easier to also adapt Booth to this new solar panel, as it's going to be a new school with solar panel. That would be incredible for as a role model for other schools around. As McIntosh is a leading school in the county and in the whole region for academic and arts and athletic achievements, we would really hope that you guys consider that we could also be a leader in sustainable sources of energy as well. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Zach Stone, and I'm here to tell you about the financial reasons why solar power is a must for McIntosh. First off, the long-term financial benefits are innumerable. If we look 6, 8, or even 10 years into the future, where will McIntosh High School be? If we proceed with this solar initiative, an entire high school could be paying literally nothing for electricity. Alternatively, we could stall this project for, say, 10 years in the future and still be paying significant amounts of money for electricity and be years away from total independence. So the sooner we act, the better, and potentially the graduating class of 2025 could have no net spend on electricity. We just have to make this initial investment because essentially, with the availability of panels and the low cost of installation, we are losing money by not having solar electricity at McIntosh. Additionally, as Mon mentioned, McIntosh has the unique benefit of a rapid return of investment. Because school requires the bulk of electricity during the day when the sun is strongest, these panels allow for to be very efficient and can get the energy during the day. This makes the school a perfect choice for solar panels and can allow money to come back at a comparatively quick rate. Another huge benefit is the potential new funds that can be reallocated when paying for electricity is no longer a concern. Without electricity bills, McIntosh will have freed up funds with solar panels that can be put towards a variety of positive uses, including money towards hands-on student projects, expanded budgets for teacher spending, or any other financial needs that may arise. Finally, there are also financial grants that could accompany this project that would be very helpful. Because renewable energy is so important for the future, as of right now, various organizations are willing to provide grants and incentives for solar projects. One example in Georgia is the Green Power Purchasing Goal for federal government that helps schools and other federal buildings install solar power panels. There are also other Georgia programs like net metering, which would allow McIntosh to sell back solar energy during the summer month where they require lesser amounts. Ultimately, all financial reasons point towards solar panels at McIntosh being a fantastic idea. So the question is not why should McIntosh go solar, it's why shouldn't McIntosh? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paula, and today I will be convincing you just how feasible it is for McIntosh to go solar. When I first heard of the plan, I was like, this has got to be a scam. I mean, like, this is too good to be true. But it's not, and I'm going to convince you why. And in fact, we have multiple options to make this a reality. To start off, we can always go independently. That means we buy, install, and manage all the solar panels ourselves. This will include a high upfront cost, but this clean and sustainable energy will create an educational opportunity for students, which inspires consciousness for the surroundings and the world and environment. And this is a completely free energy source with zero emissions, and by 2025, you know, it's every month free energy, and you really are losing money by not using this initiative. And in the case of education and money, it's like capturing two birds with one stone. Or if this is too steep an investment, we can always use a power purchase agreement, PPA. This includes allowing us to work with a third-party company to eliminate all or almost all upfront costs. They'll install these solar panels themselves for no money almost, but the only thing is we'll just buy the energy back from them. And even at this rate, the energy that we buy back from them is at our lower rate than being connected to the grid. So, you know, it's a win-win situation. And if this isn't enough for you, as Zach said before, we have federal grant programs to provide rebates for our solar initiative. For example, if we install them this year, by 2019, we can get up to 30% back of our purchasing price. And expect this rate to go down, though, because by 2020, it'll go down to 26, by 2021, 22, and it just keeps going down. So now is a prime time to do it, and any time after this, we'll be losing even more money. And if by now you're still not convinced, which I don't know how you cannot be, we can do this in phases. For example, our first phase can be replacing our lights in the parking lot with solar and seeing how that turns out and seeing how effective that is and how efficient that is and how much we have to invest in that. And then we can just add solar awnings in the parking lot, which provides shade, shelter, and golf cart charging. This will not only capture 2 birds with one stone, but 3 birds with one stone. And third, after that, we can power a portion of McIntosh with solar panels and just continually add on to that. At the end of it all, with its huge surface area on the roof, McIntosh has unlimited potential and benefits by going solar. Thus, it's like capturing unlimited birds with one stone. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Junwei. And I believe that Peachtree City is a great area for solar panel installation due to the vast amount of sunlight that the city gets. An example is Crown Plaza, a hotel located here in Peachtree City that has recently invested $1.1 million in 1,600 LG 400 solar panels. They're expecting to receive their return on investment in roughly 6 to 7 years, which is to say in roughly 6 to 7 years, they will have gotten their initial $1.1 million back in savings. The installation and transition were also very smooth and did not interfere with the customer's stay, thus meaning the installation and the transition out of schools will also not interfere with the students' learning. It will be business as usual. The panels are designed to withstand weather and other geographic imperfections and can last up to 25 years. The panels themselves are stationary and face southwest as the sun crosses through the sky from the south and towards the west. Crown Plaza does not use batteries to store the electricity, which also cuts down the cost. This hotel uses software that tracks the amount of electricity generated using the panels and how much fuel they have saved and carbon dioxide emissions they have reduced. Also, minimal vegetation were needed to be removed since the solar panels were installed on the roofs of the building. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Johan Renderi, and I'll be talking to you about the cost and savings of installing solar at Macintosh. Currently, Macintosh uses approximately 2.76 million kilowatt hours of energy in the last year. This great amount of energy puts a significant cost on the county and school, to $475,000 to be specific. Now, we've talked about the implementation of solar at Crown Plaza using the LG 400 solar panels. These, while really good panels, are expensive. There are other cheaper options that provide just as good value. For example, some Astronergy panels are half the cost, but provide only 3% lower efficiency. Hence, with the great surface area of the Macintosh roof, that difference could be easily offset. We estimate that the cost would be about $2.67 million for the installation in one year. If we split the installation up over 2 years, it will cost about $1.35 million. If we split the installation up over 3 years, it will cost about $890,000 per year. And if we split the installation up over 5 years, it will cost about $534,000 per year. There would be little upfront cost if you use a purchase power agreement. And we expect a return on investment time of approximately 5.6 years. These savings from solar could be applied to other uses, such as better science labs, better textbooks, better everything for students. Thank you, and I yield my time to Max.
Hello, my name is Maximilian Rogermeyer, and I'm the committee representative from the 2019 Macintosh STEM programs class. I've not only had the opportunity to work on a year-long solar project through the STEM program, but I've also had the wonderful opportunity to collaborate with a great group of students on this solar project that I'm going to present here today. Macintosh is a school that demands excellence. Excellence in its students, its teachers, its administration, and its community. We have been able to gain support from all of these groups. We've released an online survey, getting responses from hundreds of students and members of the community with a nearly 96% approval rating for solar energy in school buildings. We've gotten signatures from teachers and staff on a petition to integrate solar energy and even have received support from our own principal, Dr. Lane. Macintosh currently leads the county in test scores, and I know that they can lead the county in the application of this cutting-edge 21st century technology. Of the 5,500 schools in the nation to have adopted solar energy, not one of them has yet been able to achieve 100% of their energy requirements on as large of a scale as would be necessary to power Macintosh. However, after nearly 9 months of research through the STEM program, I'm here to tell you today that it is possible to power Macintosh, and if that is there is a school to achieve 100% energy requirements, it is Macintosh. Due to our prime solar exposure and large roof area, it is not only possible to completely power our school, but applicable. Powering Macintosh would carve a path for other schools and be able to leapfrog new buildings such as Booth into smarter and more sustainable design.
McIntosh can stand as not only an example to Fayette County, but with the spread of solar technology, I know that it can stand as an example to the nation. Solar technology is a change that is inevitable, and it is a choice that should be made now. All of this considered, I ask you this. What do you want McIntosh to be? What do you want Fayette County to be? What do you want to be? Because I know what I want to be. I want to be the future. I want to be the first. I want to be the one to do the most. I want to be excellent. I want the school to be excellent. We want to be excellent. We can be excellent. The technology is there, and it is just a matter of putting it into place. If not for the educational opportunities, if not for the environmental benefits, if not for the savings, then do it for this, the Macintosh that I see. Not the Macintosh that stands now, but Macintosh the way it can be, the way I know you want it to be. A Macintosh that leads and inspires its students to be creative and be innovative and be passionate and work hard to change their world for the better. Do it for that. It is here and it is now and it is possible, and I know that we can do it. Thank you.
We can take any questions if you guys have any questions.
No, yeah, we've got other people to go, but well done, well done. Thank you. Brad Williams.
I'm really excited about solar.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. And I hope you all get A's and you all get scholarships to Georgia Tech. My name is Brad Williams. I live at 104 Carriage Lane, and I'm here to speak to you about the proposed booth location on Stagecoach. I'd like to mainly address this in covering issues of congestion and poor community design. Booth currently sits on a great location. It's central to its student body. It benefits from a 4-lane parkway. It's easily accessed by foot, by cart, by bike, by car, by bus. The Stagecoach location would be none of these except for bus and cars. 1,700 students at McIntosh. Another 200 new employees due to take up office in a new location being built behind World Gym. And now 1,500 additional students, all converging on the same intersection. Currently, this intersection is designed predominantly for east and west traffic. It will not handle, in its current state, the impact of additional traffic going down Carriage Lane or coming across Walt Banks. This intersection will clearly need additional investment and re-engineering. And even with that, it's going to significantly create a jam, much like on the other side of town at 5474. As you know, Peachtree City is a master community designed location and town. It's built with the idea of villages. Those villages are built on the idea that by locating all of the essential elements of a community, that you create, within that community, you create a greater sense of community and a higher quality of life. By relocating Booth to this remote, inaccessible outer edge of our city, you are destroying the essential elements of urban planning that make Peachtree City such a desirable place to live. Additionally, 1,500 students, the sheer size of this proposed school goes counter to the idea of villages. We know that Booth is overcrowded. We know that it needs significant renovation and reinvestment. Peachtree City does not need a supersized mega middle school. It needs another middle school. And that middle school needs to be on the other side of town that is central to the greater opportunity of new homes and the greater growth of where the population of this city is moving into. We continue to earn a ranking in national best places to live for a reason. That's because we're different. We're not Gwinnett. We're not Cobb County. Our schools need to be the focus and the center point of our communities. Please, I urge you, reconsider this idea. Come up with a plan that creates an additional school and remodels Booth and save our community and keep Peachtree City, Peachtree City. Thank you.
Tina Moore.
Hi. I'm Tina Moore. I live at 112 Stonebriar Pass. I am an engaged volunteer at the schools. I am a parent, and I'm a former Fayette County School District employee. Hanover. We have paid thousands of taxpayer dollars for Hanover research. The one that we did in 2018 about graduates had a lot to say. The first thing was less than half of graduates felt prepared for career and school readiness in college. You did something about that. You created coaches at the high school level for college, which is amazing. But you missed one important thing that was even lower than that number. It was 33% of students did not feel emotionally supported and did not feel that they had the skills to succeed in that respect. I looked at your budget that you're proposing. I looked at the draft of the strategic plan, and I also looked at the professional learning schedule from last year. Yes, you have some good programs like mental health, first aid, trauma 101, and they're not enough. Today, kids are experiencing more depression, anxiety, suicidality than ever before. In that survey, it went down significantly from 48% in 2016, the kids in this district, seniors felt supported, to 33% in 2018. Now, what happened? Did we change so much as a school district? No, we're still a great school district. The world changed. And here's the thing. If you want to engage the kids, our students, and support them socially and emotionally, these are skills that those programs do not teach. And where do you start? You start with every one of you before me. You need to learn how to model those supportive skills to your teachers and to your staff so they can model them for their students. Before I left, my husband said, okay, Tina, what do you want to gain by going and speaking? And I said, it's not about me. It's about our senior that's going to graduate on Friday, and she wants to be a school teacher. And it's important to me to speak up and ask you to pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you. The next portion of the public comment is for anybody who would like to make a public comment about our proposed budget. In that case, we'll close the public comments portion and move on to the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hollowell. The item 7A is our first. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I apologize.
I didn't know to get a number. I'll make it quick.
okay. This is on the budget?
No, sir. Just the public comment. I'm a parent with a concern. That's it. I have a kindergartner at Robert Birch Elementary that's been bullied since December of last year. It's really gotten out of control. I met with the head of security. I've sent emails on top of emails, and the kid and my son is still in the same class, and this is the end of the year. He's in kindergarten. Me, I have post-traumatic stress disorder that I'm suffering with at home. We just moved here from Miami, and he has not, the issue has not been addressed. And the little kid, they had on video with him punching my son in the stomach. He even showed his, under his private part on the bus. It's been swept up under the rug. I spoke to Mr. Lombard. I spoke to the principal. I spoke to, I just want to know what's the protocol. Once again, I'm from Florida. I don't know really how things work here, and I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder complex, as a matter of fact. And I'm going through a divorce and trying to figure my way out here. So it's kind of rough without a support system. And the last thing I can deal with is my son being bullied. So I just wanted to know what was the protocol, and that's it.
Mr. Hall, we have contact information for every other speaker.
I'd suggest that you give your contact information to Mrs. Sykes and.
We can follow up.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we can go to, and thank you, Dr. Marchman, and we can go on to the superintendent's report.
We have Mr. Tom Gray, our Chief Financial Officer, is going to come and give us a budget update on the FY20 budget review. He has a complete presentation for you and also a budget notebook that we've been working to construct over the last several months. So, Mr. Gray, if you will, please.
Okay, Kay, if you'll open up the overview. And this is a PowerPoint presentation. And this is after the several updates we've done each month for the budget process. So this gives you an overview of what we have. So you see the general fund budget is $229.5 million. Debt service, 7.8. Special revenue funds, 20.8, 20.7, and our workers' comp fund going to spend $725,000. So let's look at just the general fund just to get an overview of that. See that the total revenues are $229.5 million. State QBE is 111. I know you've read most of that, but kind of hit some highlights there. 6.9 increase over last year, and the QBE earnings increased 9.1 million. Part of that is due to increased FTEs. Some of that, or a lot of that, is because of the change in the teacher's state salary schedule, $3,000 at every single level. So that increased. And then a 2% COLA for school nutrition, nurses, and bus drivers. So that's what's in the QBE changes. Also, the local 5 mil share is going up, which means our revenue is going down $2.2 million. And that's because of the lagging digest increasing. Okay. There's no austerity reduction. Yes, I'm sorry.
Tom, can I ask a question on the sub-bullet on the QBE earnings, the first sub-bullet? Are you saying we've added 246 FTE, or is that a dollar amount from the state? Or
that's an increase in our FTE earnings of our students.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So 246 more students.
I understand.
Full credit for students.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, and then there's no austerity reduction this year, so that's 2 years in a row. And then categorical grants, which cover transportation and nursing, is $500,000. That's an increase of $500,000. Or I'm sorry, it's a total of $500,000. All right, so general fund revenues, looking at the local revenues, estimating about $118 million right now. That'd come from property ad valorem tax would be the biggest area. We're basing the digest increase on 8.24%. That comes from growth and reassessment, you can see there. Then we have some of our other categories of ad valorem tax and title ad valorem tax that are also increasing slightly as well. So $118 million on local revenues. Okay, and then if you go to the next slide, it gives you a graphical representation of the breakdown of the revenues. You can see a little more than half of the revenue is coming from the local portion with the current breakout. All right, in the expenditure category, in the next slide, we have a breakdown of that. Expenditures for general fund, $229.5 million. That's a $16.8 million increase. Direct instruction is still right at 67%, which is about where it was last year. The total projected fund balance at the end of the year is $29.5 million. Our budgetary reserve requirement is 22.9 per the board policy. So that's where we'll end up based on this budget for next year. Going a little deeper into the expenditures just to hit some of the major category, the increase. Of course, the salary increase, we're getting some funding for it on one side and we're spending it on the other. And that's going to cost us about $6.5 million in total. TRS rate is changing for next year, so it's going up slightly. It's going to cost us $300,000. COLA for the certified employees of 2%, it's going to be about $600,000. And then everyone going up a step, whether they're certified or classified, would be $2.5 million. We've added some positions at the school, certified positions in the budget, about 28, and that's $2.6 million. And classified positions, about 13, that's $390,000. Also, in special ed, we don't yet have all those assigned to schools because some of that's still being worked out, so we've budgeted that in lump sum, and we've increased those about 11.5 positions, so that's another $800,000. Some other support positions round out to about $500,000, And then operating transfers, because we're adding some programs and covering some things for school nutrition, there's $1.5 million increase there. All right, so if we'll go on, we'll look at high schools, what the increases are in high schools. Almost 6.5 FTE increase in certified positions, and that puts our student-teacher ratio at 24, just over 24. Our target for high school is 25. Some of the additional positions and programs that we've put in there relate to some of the program enhancements, more science teachers, CTE, math, help and support. Fayette County's getting another RTC teacher because that program's growing. So that's where we're seeing the increases for the high school. If we go on to the next slide, it's middle school. Middle school overview increasing just 1.5 FTEs. Student-teacher ratio is at 22.74, so it's well below our target rate of 25. But we are expanding the creative arts program to another middle school starting next year. And then elementary schools, where we have most of the increases, 20.4 FTE increased. 7 of those are related to the ECS lead teacher, but that's a net 2 increase because we had decreased in other areas. We're increasing the gifted allotment. We're increasing parapros. Part 2 of those are for world language programs that are being expanded. And then you can see the class size comparison at the bottom. I'll say in kindergarten, we just put question marks as to what it's actually going to be because it's still, we're too far out to really know what kindergarten is going to be. Our target is 20. But you can see in first to third and fourth and fifth, we're well below what our target class size is for those. On the next slide, we'll show the support positions that are being added or changed. So we have Director of Federal Programs, which is that we're moving that into the general fund. That'll free up more money in the, did I skip one? I think I skipped one, didn't I? Yeah, excuse me. Sorry. All right. Yeah, additional support positions, a hospital homebound teacher, adding one of those, an information analyst and student achievement to help with digital learning platforms, data integration, computer science requirements, RTI PBIS coach, and we're looking at funding that through Title II. And then transportation, we're going to add a clerical position to help with the excessive amount of videos that the supervisors are having to get is one of the things that's really taking the supervisors away from being able to answer phone calls and things of that nature. So we thought giving a little bit of clerical help could help free up, help with that process. More support position changes. This is a shift in funding. Director of Federal Programs would move the Title I coordinator and clerical position over to general fund, and that would free up more funding for Title I schools, but it also would help us streamline the monitoring and compliance for all the Title I, 2, 3, 4 programs, all the federal programs. ESOL coordinator, that's reclassifying that position from a specialist to a coordinator. The Director of Digital Learning Services, again, reclassifying it from a coordinator to a director to help, and that person helps with project management for a lot of the technology enhanced initiatives. And then in finance, eliminating a warehouse position and creating a position that will assist the clerical staff in finance and software to help the school-based bookkeepers more with things like software issues, bank recs, and training. All right, continuing on, we just did we skip operation to budget? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and do that. The slide you were going to. Got them in a different. Okay. Here we're going to look at the class size breakout. This is just another view of where we're at for class size for what the student-teacher ratio is compared to what the target rate is, and you can see at all the levels we're well below the target size. All right. The operational budget is increasing, and those areas are school level operating. Because we have more FTEs and students, we're increasing the school-based budgets to help with that. Departmental budget increases include things like we do have to pay for some of the textbooks for math out of it's textbook cost, but it's the electronic data subscription base. Some of that has to be paid for out of the general fund. And then we have some increases related to local capital projects, the increase for pre-K and ROTC, those grant matching programs, we have to increase that funding, and some additional funding supplemental for SNP. All right, the next slide gives you a graphical representation of where the expenditures are. You can see 67% almost is in instruction, and then the rest is in the other areas. And for the most part, I would say this year compared to last year, you're seeing a percentage increase, in areas like improvement of instruction and instructional training, pupil services, related to some of the other areas as far as percentage of what it is of the budget. That's a document that's in your budget book towards the front in the expenditure section. You can take a look at. The next slide will show us the breakdown, same breakdown but a little more concise. We've got expenditures by category with salaries, benefits versus all other operating. And our salaries and benefits total 89.4% of the budget. So, just under that 90% that we try to make sure we're staying under. Continue on, teacher pay and benefits. You'll see that what we have for a starting T4 teacher would make and what their benefit breakdown. Total compensation package is $67,000. A mid-range teacher, T5 with 8 years, total package will be $88,000. And then a T6 with 26 years, total compensation package will be $113,000. You can see the breakdown of the benefits underneath that. So for the average employee, about 32% of their compensation package comes from benefits. All right, now the other funds budget overview for there. The first one is debt service. The debt service revenues will be $6.4 million. We'll also transfer SPLOST revenue $1.3 million over to pay the SPLOST issued bonds. Expenditures would be debt service, interest, principal, obviously, and then I gave you the outstanding balances at the beginning of the year there, $37 million on our 2013 issue and $25 million on the SPLOST bonds. In the continuing on with special revenue funds, $20.7 million, and those are the categories we have: school nutrition, after school, community schools, and in your budget book there's more detail on each of those funds. The workers' compensation fund, we're going to transfer $600,000 over there, but we'll end up expending $725,000. We have a large fund balance over there, so we don't have to transfer as much every year if we have, depending on the claims that are there. We do kind of have two things going right now on workers' comp still, and that is our old self-funded plan is still has some runoff claims, and then we made a transfer in October of 2017 to GSBA, being under their plan, and that rate changes, but we have a little bit more flexibility with them and also some additional training and better management of claims. All right, so those are all the funds. Just thought I'd give you a brief overview what the budget process is and where we're at. So you can see that we developed in January through May the budget. We're here in May 20th with the public comment session and the tentative adoption of the budget. And tonight, when we ask you to tentatively adopt the budget, that just kind of sets the stage for the final adoption, which will be in June. So this is so we can publish it and put it out. We'll have advertising going on for at least 2 weeks. There'll be another public comment session on June 3rd. Then we'll come back June 17th for the final budget adoption. So if we needed to make any adjustments, we have the month of June to work on that. After we do the final adoption of the budget, we'll start working towards your millage rate adoption. So we have kind of a tentative calendar there, starting with our advertising. We have certain requirements for advertising, having a public hearing, 2 public hearings on August 12th, which would be the same day as a regular board work session. We'd have one in the before, at least starting before noon, and then one starting after 6 o'clock. And then August 19th, it says regular board meeting in there, but that would actually have to be a called meeting because I think the regular board meeting is actually the week later. But in order to meet the timeline to get the information approved to the county commissioners meeting so that they can approve it and then get it to the state in time, we would need to have that approved by August 23rd. So we need to have that done on August 19th. So those dates are just kind of tentative at this point. So that's our budget overview. Okay, if you go to the single document, and just let me touch base on that. This is the actual document that you'll be adopting as a budget. Our policy is that we adopt the budget at the aggregate fund level. In other words, you're adopting the general fund expenditures, the debt service, the special revenue funds, and the internal service funds. So this is actually more detailed than what you're actually adopting as a budget based on our policy, but we do have to report to the state on function level. So that is the display that we give. That is one of the requirements. We have to at least give you, for the budget, the function level breakout. Of course, in your budget book, workbook you have, and electronic documents you have a exceptional more detail than what's there. But this essentially would be the budget that's being adopted at the aggregate fund level.
And this is what's published in the paper.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Ready for questions?
Sure.
Well, I would say this before any questions start. In the PowerPoint presentation, I know we've worked really hard to try to be very transparent so that you folks do a lot more work with this budget than the John Q. Citizen. But I think anybody reading through this overall description would have a pretty good understanding of exactly what we're doing and where we're doing it. I think there's some great things to talk about with this budget. Number one, no austerity cuts, and we have revenues coming in. So that's a strong thing. In times past, we've had to struggle. We're not struggling at this point. We feel like there are some increases here, no question about that, but most of that, the largest percentage of that deals with teacher compensation in their packages, and I think everybody understands the importance of paying our teachers well so that we can continue to have the best teachers here. There are some more work that needs to be done, but I think this is a point where we need to bring it to the board to see if you have any specific questions, and we'll continue to have these conversations on throughout the remainder of May and on into June before we get to the point where we have to approve prior to that June 30 date.
Okay. Questions? I just had one quick one. I know
Yes.
we switched over on the worker comps program. Are we starting to see some benefits to that?
Yeah, we're starting to see better tracking on our claims, so we're able to actually reduce the cost of the claims. And Dr. Barr will be able to tell you this. We've had less claims buyouts, I call them, but, where we would.
We settled the claim.
Yes, where we've settled the claims because we've actually had better management of claims. Also, we're having a lower frequency of injuries as well. Being reported and going.
Part of that is because they do offer training and support, and we want to continue to do that. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And, you're always going to have some inadvertent type accidents. That's why they call them accidents. But we want to minimize those and certainly take care of our employees if they ever have an accident.
Right. And the third-party administrator that was being used was actually the same third-party administrator that we had been using, so it was a very easy transition. But the prescription-based program that they use is a lot better. So when an employee comes in and reports an injury and reports to HR, we're able to give them a prescription card right away so they can go ahead and take care of the meds as needed that are prescribed by the doctor. We get them to the panel of doctors a lot quicker, and then we have a little bit better input on the panel of doctors.
All right.
Okay.
Good. Thanks.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Just looking at the fund balance above the reserve, what's a $250,000 going to be worth this? I know you.
A $250,000 would be about $1.3 to $1.4 million.
And right now, over the 10%, we're at 6.5. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir. Okay, sounds correct.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I have a comment, or a question. Several speakers have expressed concerns about our expenses, and I guess my first question, Tom, is this a budget that's going to require me to ask more of my friends and neighbors in terms of tax dollars?
If you mean a millage increase,
No, I mean
okay,
a dollar
well,
amount.
okay, if you mean a full rollback, we will not have a full rollback. We would have to cut from this year's budget, most likely, to have a rollback. I haven't calculated what that is, but we would have to drastically reduce to roll back the millage completely.
Mr. Chairman, I have some comments that it's important to me to just put in the public record, and they're a little bit lengthy, so I just want to ask for your indulgence ahead of time.
Is it all right if I sit down for a minute?
Yeah, they're not that
Okay.
lengthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can sit down. I guess, like I said, several speakers have expressed concerns about our expenses. And I look forward to reading through the budget details that we received today, and maybe I can make some suggestions. But I was just thinking about a rich miser who had accumulated a great deal of wealth. And when asked how much would be enough to satisfy him, he said just a little bit more. And I was also thinking there's been no significant increase in our number of students. We've passed our E-SPLOST with the implication that we weren't going to ask for more in property taxes. The Fayette County Development Authority has sponsored projects with the implied property tax reductions because we've got all these businesses coming in. We've had TADs that have made similar promises. And then the assessments. I got my assessment like many of you this week. And the assessments result in a higher net worth for all of my friends and neighbors, but not a higher cash flow. And we're asking for a larger percentage of a family's budget. Maybe that's their vacation money or maybe it's their grocery money. But whether it's discretionary income or grocery money, I don't feel like we have a right to keep taking just a little bit more of the family budget without a clear explanation. And you might argue we are giving a clear explanation of why we're asking for their greater sacrifice. We have full funding for our QBE formula plus teacher raises. That's been a reason that we've asked for more of our citizens' money because the state austerity cuts, those don't exist anymore. Another reason that we've talked about is class size. This board has constrained our staff by mandating a certain class size. And as I discussed last meeting and other meetings, I've researched and inquired about the effect of class size on student outcome. And hearing no evidence, I must assume there is none. And what I have found is that single-digit class sizes are impactful, but going from 28 to 25 or 25 to 23 does not impact student outcome. There's no evidence that I can find that impacts student outcome. And so why are we placing this arbitrary constraint on our staff when there are perhaps better uses of our money, uses that are research-based, like graduation coaches, remediation coaches, paraprofessionals, or other allocation of resources that have been proven to have an impact on student outcomes? I would like to make a motion later that we remove the arbitrary constraint of class size and give our staff the freedom to allocate our scarce resources in the most impactful manner, including class size when necessary, where it can be most impactful. And lastly, my personal rollback rate is 18.2 meals, and so anything more than that will require us to take more. And I'm sure that's not the average, but that's my personal. So I think that I've been very consistent in my position. If I haven't, I apologize, but I think I've said in public and in private that most of the reasons we have increased the millage are not there anymore, and I would not vote for a budget that requires us to take more of our taxpayers' hard-earned resources. The end.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Move on to.
Okay, looking at item 7B, I did want to share with the board that just last week we had pushed out a community calendar survey to our parents and community, and we checked this afternoon about how many responses. We'd actually already had just under 2,500 responses from our parents, so I thought that was great. Got some good feedback. The actual surveys where our staff will vote on their preference is supposed to go out either late this afternoon or early tomorrow morning, and we'll be able to bring that data back to you. But I just wanted to kind of keep you informed about the calendar, and there were a couple of things that I was impressed with. First of all, I think we had about an 80% approval rate of the digital or online learning day to provide some staff development. I thought that was good. Had pretty good response on using President's Day as a holiday, a vote day, because a number of our schools serve as precinct sites. So we've got some good data, good feedback. We'll be able to share all of that with you when we close out the survey. But I thought it was good. Mr. Anderson.
Dr. Brewer, yeah, I went through it, and I actually voted as a parent. And I guess I have a question on the two calendars aren't really that different. There's minute changes, for instance, the winter break, amount of days. Start date, I believe, was August 2nd or 3rd, something like that. Somebody brought up the other day to me to really understand and gauge at least the community and maybe other staff considerations, why we didn't look at a more radically different proposal to gauge interest, because they're so close that it's like, do you want a week at winter break or not? But the reality is, a lot of the feedback I got from parents directly over the last week, since this came out, is why so early on the start date? Is there any version we could build where it's a later start date? And I know we've talked about these things, but
Sure.
I would just encourage us. I split test and do a lot of analytics for a living, and when the tests are virtually the same, the value it's marginalized. So if we could somehow in the future, I'm not asking you to change this, but I would highly encourage us to have more radical differences so we can really get a gauge of what the audience is looking for. And anecdotally, I talked to 8 people. It feels like everybody wants X, but that doesn't represent the county.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing when we use the, so similar of test cases. That's all.
Well, and there were, just for public information, there were a number of expectations that we set with the calendar. And, the start date, we have to have somewhat a balanced calendar with regard to the semester, the similar number of days. Students have to have 180 days of instruction. We typically try to get the semesters 90 and 90. We have to look at the state mandated testing window. We can't mess with that. One of the requests that I made of the calendar committee was that we finish first semester sometime before the Christmas break or the semester break. That's much better than having to come back after 2 weeks delay and then gearing back up and having a final exams for first semester. So we took all those into consideration. The calendar committee, again, was made up of, I think there were 25 people on the committee. There were parents, there were teachers, there were administrators, there were students. And actually, a lot of the feedback came from our students, particularly with the week-long winter break. That's
Sure,
really
that's a
the
hot
big.
one. That's a
That's
hot one.
really the biggest date or biggest difference, I think, between the two calendars. And those were the two that came out of the committee. And I don't disagree with what you said. That may be something that we can sharpen the saw on next time around when we're looking at this. But we'll continue to bring the data on the calendar as we receive it. And of course, 1920 is already set, but we want to be able to give our parents, our communities, as much early information about the calendars, because there are people planning years out. So we'll continue to look at that. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll move to item 7C. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught it in my lengthy comments, but I did make a motion. And I think it's appropriate if you'd ask if there's a second for that motion. And the motion was.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask for the motion later.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I mean.
There might not be a second, so we can.
The tentative budget is in the action item.
Right.
So,
You want to do it there?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Item 7C, if there are no other questions there, we'll talk about the live streaming of our education meetings. We've been working on this ever since we actually moved into our new boardroom, and I hope everybody's enjoying that and being able to see and can hear better. And we certainly think it's a strong step in the right direction. But one of the things that we actually have been doing is recording this board meeting this evening. I know you haven't probably noticed that, so smile and wave at the camera, everybody, okay? But it's a situation where ultimately we do hope to move towards live streaming. Ultimately, that's going to be where we can actually archive these meetings, and almost like our podcast, you can go back and watch and pick up the full meeting context. So we have not published the link yet because we're still working out some kinks. There's a lot of technical things that we think we'll be able to do with this live streaming, from moving from the general group setting up in front to the screens, and as the screens change, we'll be able to make changes like that. Our goal is to have our AVTF, or our audio, visual, television, and film crews at our high schools and middle schools actually come and be able to help us with that and set up the production, so it's a learning experience for them. But that is coming. I feel really good about it, and hopefully we'll be able to start putting those links up for everyone if they want to take a look at the board meetings if they hadn't seen them, or didn't get a chance to come. That's all for 7C. I do want to speak to the board about item 7D, and looking at the July board meeting. Typically, we do not have a work session in July because of the full week of July 4th. We have some conflicts with the July 15th date. I wanted to speak to the board to see if you had any objections or any concerns about moving that Monday meeting date to the 22nd or the 29th. I think those two dates are open, but I wanted to put that on the table for your consideration. Yes, sir.
Dr. Burrow, just like this, we set the school calendar
Yep.
years in advance.
Right.
Running a logistical family of 6 and trying to, get it all done. The 29th would require me to make significant changes. I'm willing to do that, of course, but the 22nd is easier
better
for
for
me
you?
as a personal
Okay.
vote, but I'll work with whatever the group needs.
Good, good.
So.
Any-
Either day is fine, any of the days.
22nd is fine. We don't have any problem with that.
Either day is fine with me. My only concern would be, I remember as a principal, when you're doing late hires.
Right.
If you have to wait for the board to approve somebody till late July and school starting August 2nd, there's not a lot of time there, but
Sure.
I don't have a problem with either date.
Sure. And we'll work with principals that have not been able to hire all of their staff. There's a way that we can work through that, Mr. Raybold, but if there's no, of course, there's some advertisement that we need to be able to do on our end to make sure the public's aware. But if y'all are okay, then we'll move it to the 22nd.
Yeah,
And,
I don't have a preference.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Burrow.
Okay, no, thank you.
Check my calendar person.
Yeah.
Glad to help. Next on item 7E is our Fayette County Public School Revised Strategic Plan. Dr. Turner is going to come and share just a little bit with us about that. And what we're hoping to be able to do is to put this out for general board review and/or the community to review. Almost like what we've done with our textbook adoption, have a 30-day period. I can tell you that this is as a result of our advanced ed 5-year reaccreditation process. We started re-looking and reworking our strategic plan for the next 5 years. I think we've had a lot of groups working on this, the large group cabinet particularly. But Dr. Turner, I won't steal any more of your thunder. I'll let you just give us a high-level overview of the strategic improvement plan.
Yes, sir. This year, we began working in our Monday large group cabinet meetings to look at revising the strategic plan. Part of it came out of the advanced ed recommendation that we revise our strategic plan, but also from our own desire to update our plan and provide a little more clarity in what our current priorities are. As you can see in the document, our goal areas are essentially the same. The titles for those goal areas have not changed very much. We have moved digital learning, integration, and literacy, I think it's called, from previously it was goal 4, now it is goal 2. Because we wanted to show a better connection between student achievement and the need for digital learning and digital integration. The rest of the goal areas remain pretty much the same. We are trying to provide better clarity in what our priorities are. We're still fine-tuning some of the performance measures. Those are not necessarily as refined as we would like for them to be. And at this point, we have not set targets. This is still a draft. It's still in development. But as once the overall strategic plan is approved, then we should be able to go back and decide what our targets are. It is a 5-year plan. However, we want it to be a living document. Moving forward, we are planning on routine reviews and updates to the strategic plan, which might result in some tweaking as we see priorities and needs of the school system changing. So.
Some of the performance measures and targets will be reflected in the strategic waiver because those are pretty well settled and mandated. Now, there have been some changes because of the CCRPI being changed, and those are some of the other issues that we'll have to balance and adjust as we move through identifying those targets.
Okay.
Did y'all have any questions? That was really the big overview. I'm assuming that you've had an opportunity to read through the proposed strategic plan.
Any questions?
Yeah, a couple questions. The 1.1.5B, the action step is to develop and implement effective RTI procedures. Haven't we already developed the procedures? Maybe this is just semantics. Shouldn't it be more like improve?
Well, actually, we're in the process.
We've had them for years.
Well, I don't know. Right now, we have what we call the RTI secondary visioning team because we feel like the current RTI things that we have in place aren't as effective as what they need to be. So Ms. Henley has been working with a committee of secondary folks to really retool RTI at the secondary level, which is, I think, why we chose that wording. We're still working on development and then the implementation phase. So she's made some progress this year, but we feel like it was kind of an overhaul of RTI at the secondary level, making sure that that there's better consistency and that we actually have better protocols in place than what is currently there.
Does that mean you're going to be taking what is the RTI that exists and replacing it with PBIS? Is that
No, those are two
different
completely
things.
different programs. Response to intervention is really targeting academics and behavior, and it's supporting the needs of students to where we can put interventions in place that are more personalized for students to ensure their success, whether it's academic or behavior-wise. PBIS, the Positive Behavior Intervention System, that really is more about school climate. It's about clarifying expectations and really clarifying the expectations of adults and how they respond to situations and how to create a warmer, more positive school climate.
That ties into the behavioral aspect of the RTI though, right?
It does. It does. PBIS is more school-wide, and RTI behavior is more targeted at specific students. So they're connected, and we want to make sure that we have some alignment between our code of conduct and RTI and PBIS, but they're not exactly one and the same. So.
All right, go ahead. Dr. Turner, if I may, on item number 1.5 on the student achievement and student growth, sometimes I'm
Effective support. I'm sorry, which one?
1.5 is.
Can you scroll down, please, Kay?
There you go, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I've been trying to push, and Dr. Barrow's arranged a session that we're going to work on some of it together, but it is kind of a measuring of this, because a lot of what you talk about here is phenomenal, but I'm just concerned on gaps that exist at sub-pockets, around the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm afraid that perhaps we're not identifying, where those deficiencies might be, and none of the sub-points that I saw were really about measuring when I read it. Engage, build, ensure, support, explore, engage, and support. I don't see the word measure, analyze, adopt, change.
Mhm.
I'm looking for words that are going to be identify a problem, apply our collective brain power, fix it, improve it, et cetera, you know, in this iterative
Mhm.
process. And I would just, as you're working on it, if you could consider a way to get some kind of measurement in.
Duly noted, and we'll consider that.
No, thank
Mhm.
you.
Question about 4.1, I don't know if you can answer this one, or
Okay.
if Ms. Robertson
Ms.
has
Sykes,
to.
if you'll scroll down.
4.1 says hire and retain excellent certified staff. I don't see any initiatives there for retention or action steps, anything that, where's the one to help us retain teachers?
I know that there is retention initiatives, if you go further down, that relate to bus drivers and transportation.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't see it for teachers.
Okay. Okay, again, duly noted, and we can certainly relook at that. Part of the retention goes into the support that we do for first-year teachers and new hires, which that may not be worded as a retention effort, but that does support and contribute to the retention of good teachers. So if you look at 4.2.2 under new teacher induction, it says all induction level teachers attend professional development sessions within their cohort during their first and second year. So while it doesn't spell out in terms of teacher retention, it is related to that and supports that.
Okay. 5.1.3.B. That is the only place in the entire strategic plan I saw 504 mentioned. And when I speak with principals, they say that 504s is one of their biggest headaches and drives them crazy. And I don't see any action steps or goals or anything here to assist with 504s. Some principals tell me that they have, one of their assistant principals does nothing but 504s because they become so prominent. And I know that my last year as a principal, you know, we had 70, 80 504s a year, more than RTI. But I don't see anything in here addressing 504.
Okay, Ms. Sykes, can you go down a little bit more? And what number was that, Mr. Rabel?
5.1.3.B is the only place I even see 504 mentioned in the whole plan, the whole strategic plan. And I think, again, personally, I think this is becoming a major issue that somehow in the strategic plan needs to be addressed other than just monitor the effectiveness.
Okay.
I believe we had a presentation on it a few board meetings back on the severity of the issue that you're speaking of. So there's some good data that was put together for us.
We can go back and look at that.
Any other questions or comments?
No, sir.
Certainly, if there are others, if you've had more time to review, please do email, text, let us know. You know, the measurement, the teacher retention, the 504 issues, those are all good suggestions, and we want to be able to incorporate that. And I suspect we can continue to look at this. That's the reason why we've taken I think a pretty good ways down the road, but that's the purpose of having other eyes look at this. So we appreciate the feedback, and certainly any feedback from our teaching staff, our community, we're open to that. So just send that to Dr. Turner, and we'll take a look and see how that can be incorporated into the plan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think now it's, we need a motion to go to executive session to discuss property and personnel.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're adjourned. All right, need a motion to return from executive session?
So moved.
All in favor? Any recommendations from executive session?
No recommendations from executive session.
Okay, we have personnel.
Yes, sir. You've had an opportunity to review the personnel report. We have retirements, resignations, reclassifications, elections, and separations. We'd recommend the board approve as submitted.
Need a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0.
Next,
Financial reports.
On the report, Mr. Gray, if you will, please come up and share this month's financials with us.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Barrett, board members. Have our standard financial reports, have our cash report, cash on hand, $73.6 million, $48.2 million of that is in the operating account. We have the analysis of the operating account of $48.2 million, almost $40 million of that is in the general fund. Then our budgetary report, expenditures, revenue year-to-date about 92% total. And then we had expenditures year-to-date about 82%, so we're just under the budget amount. And then if you'll look at the projection, we have the expenditures. You can see for April, $17.5 million in expenditures at the top. So we're tracking to be about $2.3 million under budget on expenditures. And then if you look in the middle section, you'll see the local revenues, $1.9 million in local revenues for the month. Below that, you have the revenue summary. So we're $194.5 million is what we're so far this year projected to be 215, and that would give us a projected surplus of $5 million for the year. That would make fund balance $29.5 million, and then our remaining fund balance above the budgetary reserve is 8.3. Now, one thing to remember about that compared to the budget is when the revenues go up next year, our budgetary reserve goes up as well. So that's why you see that variation there.
Well, and another thing too, Tom, if I can mention this, okay, if you'll scroll back down. With the operational reserve there, there is a good probability that we'll be asking the board to move some of that into capital projects. That's what we traditionally do. And we're talking about using a pretty substantial amount. I'm not going to talk about numbers at this point. We want to continue to work out the budget projections and firm that up, but looking at the potential of doing that again this year.
Okay. Then the next 3 pages are the SPLOST reports. SPLOST 1 we're finishing up, and no collections at this point. We're finishing up the expenditures on a couple of facilities projects. Then SPLOST 2, of course, we have completed the collections on SPLOST 2, so the total collections with interest earnings, $119 million, and so we've allocated that to the SPLOST projects. We'll continue to earn some interest on SPLOST, and we allocate that, use that in facilities projects is the plan right now to fund some of those remaining facility projects in SPLOST 2. And then you have SPLOST 3, the third page. And SPLOST 3, we haven't actually received any collections. We'll start receiving those collections this month. But you do notice at the top we had the bond proceeds of $28 million, and we've been drawing that down. We have $5 million left. Projects working out of there right now for capital outlay is McIntosh, part of this building, and then part of the Fayette County High School renovation. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any questions, comments? Do you want to talk a little bit about Moody's?
Right. We just wanted to give the report that Moody's had issued their annual comment for Fayette County School District, and we retained our AA2 rating, which is it's slightly higher than the normal school district rating across the country. It is considered high grade investment, and it's 2 notches below AAA. So when you consider there's A, B, and C grade levels, about 20 different grades, we're 2 from the top. So we'll feel very strong.
Okay. Questions, comments? I feel good about that. Not that we're looking at going and borrowing money or anything,
we're not.
but that's a good rating to have if you had to.
Yeah. Okay.
If no other questions on the financial report, let's move to item 10 with the consent agenda. We have employee travel and minutes. We'd recommend the board approve the consent agenda.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0.
Okay, down to action items. The math textbook adoption for our middle school and high school textbooks and resources and digital material, plus our exceptional children's services. We've had that information lie on the table for actually more than 30 days. And Dr. Turner, any comments, anything come out of the public participation or review?
We had one or two comments, and they were positive.
Okay, so not lots of comments, but I know we've had a lot of people out in the main office here area looking at our materials there. So the total recommendation is $2,162,114.87, and that covers all of the materials that we're looking for. The majority of that is eSplosh funded. We do have some general fund dollars there on some
Electronic
subscription type renewal things that are not eligible under SPLOST, and we're real careful to look at that, but the vast majority is eSplosh funded. We'd recommend the board approve.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? You got a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and this is more of a plea than a comment, I was so thrilled at the level of public participation we had tonight about issues that are important. And I was the opposite of thrilled, I guess, about the comments that I got about what we actually teach our kids. I received no input. And I would love to have seen some negative input, some positive input, and debated the issues, but I would just love if we had more parental participation on the textbook adoptions, because we don't know everything. So that's it.
Okay. Call for the vote. All in favor? All in favor? 5-0.
Okay, move on to item 11C.
And I think Dr. Marchman wants to make a motion. This is right before the tentative budget.
You're right. You know, I'm just trying to get way down to the bottom, Dr. Marshman. I apologize for that. Let me slow down a little bit. We're at the tentative FY20 adoption, and we have a recommendation. At least the tentative adoption is $229,454,060. That's what we would recommend to the board for the tentative adoption.
And the motion that I wanted to make had to do with the class size. I've heard Dr. Barrow and others say that, well, we have to follow this board policy concerning class size, and it's an arbitrary number that isn't really research-based. And there might be some situations where we would want to overload fifth grade because second grade really needs the small class sizes. And I would just like to abolish our class size constraint and let our staff and our principals decide what's best for our students, and give them the freedom to decide, yes, that we need a very small classroom size here, but if we need a class of 9 here, we're going to have a class of 40 over here, and we can't do that right now. And so my motion is just to abolish the mandate that we've given to have a certain class size.
Can we discuss that?
Is there,
Yeah, of course.
there needs to be
If there's a second.
there needs to be a second.
I second it, so we can discuss it.
Okay.
So my question is, from the educators, because I don't know. Logically, it makes sense, right? You want to give the flexibility to Dr. Barrow and/or building level staff, but I don't know, you guys. This is out of my wheelhouse, so to speak. So I would defer to all three of the superintendents, assistant superintendents, the superintendent, and I'm just curious what you guys think on it. Does it help you? Does that give you the leeway to do more?
Dr. Turner, I'll go ahead and put my 2 cents worth out there, and then if you feel free to agree or disagree, we'll see if we've got inter-rater reliability here. Most of the class size research that I have seen, it is at sometimes a mixed bag. Typically, if it's really going to have a positive impact, you've got to get the number down to around 15. And I can tell you, there are very few classes that we could afford to do that. A lot of them, I'll put it that way. Generally speaking, when you look at smaller class sizes, it does have a strong impact with our subgroups, particularly children of color, children of low wealth, because they benefit from that additional help and support. If you've got a really excellent teacher and they're providing top shelf instruction, there's not a lot of difference between 24 in a classroom and 26 in the classroom or 27. That, as far as the instructional value, having said that, you can ask any teacher in Fayette County, is it easier to manage 24 kids as opposed to 27 kids, 28 kids? They're going to tell you absolutely. That makes a difference to them in the operational management of the classroom. Instructionally, that is, like I said, that's kind of a mixed bag. Now, that's most of the research. That's my high level overview. Dr. Turner, any comments you want to add?
I concur with Dr. Barrow in terms of the research. If you look at it, some say it has an impact and others don't. When I did a very cursory look at research after the work session, what I saw was for at-risk students, smaller class size does tend to have an impact. But also some of it has to do a lot more with teacher quality than it does with class size. You know, when you talk about removing class size constraints, in my opinion, you always have to consider what unintended consequences would be. And so I have to wonder what would the impact be on allotment determinations if we're not using class size as a guidance for that.
Is there a state requirement that we're accountable to?
There is maximum class size
We filed a waiver
state
for that?
requirements. We're below.
But do we file a waiver for that? Are we under that requirement?
Yes.
No, sir. We waive that through our strategic waiver.
Okay, so we really don't have a class size requirement that's mandated to us
No,
from the
but,
state?
you know, I get what you're saying, let's remove that, and let the, principals decide how to use their staffing, but then again, how do you determine how much staff you need if you don't have a student-teacher ratio guideline in place to determine how many second grade teachers you need or how many biology teachers you need? You know, the way they manipulate their schedules at the secondary level, they already do to some degree work around class size restraints, so.
I guess part of that discussion is coming from these conversations with principals in this district and other districts, where they say, I wish I could rearrange my building such that I've got this class overloaded with this veteran, excellent teacher, and focus on these at-risk kids. And when we are arbitrarily making the class sizes be a certain size, you don't necessarily have the freedom to do that. Maybe we could do it on a case-by-case basis where the superintendent feels and the building principal feels it's necessary, at the very least.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as a high school principal, and when I came to the superintendent or, you know, whoever was, I could go beyond the class sizes if I wanted to. If I had a great teacher, like I had a great teacher teaching AP Psych, she could do 33 kids a period and not break a sweat, and they'd still all pass the AP test. But then I had other teachers that I couldn't put 33 in their class. So if there were situations where I wanted a larger class, I would just call up and say, look, or if I needed a smaller class, I would say, you know, hey, I know I need to have 20 in this class, but this is 17 remedial kids or 18 remedial kids that if I put 20 in there, you know, you can't do that. And I never got turned down.
Yeah.
So even though the class size is there, and like Dr. Turner says, for allotments, county office needs something like that so that they can say Raybould or whoever, Mr. Cole has 1,400 kids, 25-1, this is how many teachers he gets, blah, blah, blah. Or if you don't have that, if it's just, okay, how many teachers do you want? I promise you, we'll be hiring a lot of teachers or looking at it.
Right.
Leonard?
I think we do give enough flexibility, and, I think that, given that, you've also talked about trying to reduce our budget a significant amount, the only real way to do that is to increase class sizes, and, I'm not really in favor of making class sizes bigger. I don't think people in this community, parents, want bigger class sizes. I know the research is mixed, but I think there's, enough evidence to support that the notion that smaller class sizes do impact student achievement, particularly among the students that we talk about needing the extra supports, and I think it's what people want, so I'm not really
Research is
interested.
clear that it helps at-risk students, but the general population, it's not clear. And so I think that's important.
There isn't a whole lot of, randomly assigned blind trials on class size, so.
I think it's an important discussion, so thank y'all.
Yeah, and I would just kind of say, I think this would be a pretty dramatic shift for the community, and I'd want to get a lot of community input before we went in that direction. And secondly, I also think that the smaller class sizes makes us an attractive destination for quality teachers and is important in terms of our teacher retention. So, but we'll go ahead. We got a motion and a second, so all in favor of the motion? Okay, all opposed? Okay, the motion fails 4-1.
Thank you for the good discussion.
Okay. The tentative budget we have is up next, and we have a recommendation to adopt.
We do have a recommendation to adopt the tentative budget. We'll continue to work on refining our numbers here as we look at allotments and positions. But the tentative budget is $229,454,060. We would recommend the board approve the tentative budget.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion or comments?
We did all that in the previous
Yeah.
section.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's 4-1, passes 4-1.
Okay, item 11C is the Lycenium Charter School proposal. I've shared some information with the board, but I certainly want to read you just a couple of comments that I pulled together here. The basic premise mentioned in the application proposal is the desire to expand the workforce development for film and television industry, and that goal in itself is not inappropriate. However, the proposal is all about what the charter school hopes to accomplish. Meanwhile, the Fayette County School District has already engaged and established the development of a film program at the Center of Innovation and also at Sandy Creek High School. We've already established an AVTF, that's audio, visual, television, and film programs at all 5 of our middle schools and high schools. We've co-developed a State Department of Education, a Technical College System of Georgia, and a University System of Georgia approved dramatic writing for film, television, and theater that was co-developed with the Georgia Film Academy. We already have a robust dual enrollment program with Clayton State, Georgia Military, Southern Crescent, and other institutions, and also very strong partnerships with the Georgia Film Academy and Pinewood Atlanta Studios. We had a similar application from this group about a year ago that had an unrestricted attendance boundary. This application is different in that it establishes the school boundary in Fayette County, and it will serve Clayton County students and Spalding County students as well. That appears to be in direct philosophic conflict with Fayette County Board policies, JBC and JBCBA. That's talking about school admissions and tuitions. With all that being said, there are other fundamental problems I see with the application itself regarding assessment, the graduation goals, work-based learning opportunities, teacher certification, and there are others. The State Charter School Commission has requested feedback from our district. Long story short, I'm recommending to our board to oppose the operation and/or approval of the prospective Lyceum Lab Charter School in Fayette County.
All right, we need a motion to oppose the application.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Believe it or not, I got a comment. Normally I want to support any group of citizens that want to try something innovative or a charter school or anything like that. But I actually scanned through the entire application. I read some parts of it very carefully. Researched some of the principals, not the principals, but the main people involved in this operation, and looked at some of their existing schools. And for those reasons, I want to support your resolution. But in speaking of school choice, we have House Bill 251 that allows our students to go wherever they want to, given the space available. But we also have this policy, JBCCA, that I'd like to put on a future agenda and make sure that our staff understands the board intention, because I just don't know if it's as easy to change schools as the board intended several years ago when we talked about this policy. When we revised it, 2016. 2016. So I'd just like to put that on the work session agenda and just make sure that our practice is still in line with board consensus.
Okay. I went through the application as well, and one of the things that I did notice that one of the courses that they're offering is the course that we developed through the state, the dramatic screenwriting. So I feel like we're all already sort of doing what they're proposing to do.
Yes,
So, but all in favor of the resolution to oppose the application? 5-0.
Okay, item 11D, we have a construction manager at risk for Oak Grove Elementary school renovation and new construction. I would say this, and we've got two items very comparable, but I wanted to get two votes on this. Our folks have really been extremely thorough in the process of going through the request for proposal. They have a very rigid rubric. They also have interviews of all the finalists, and I think we've got one of the strongest processes here as far as selection of contractors and construction folks of any place I've ever been. So I want to reassure the board that that is, I think it would stand scrutiny from anybody who wanted to look at the process. With all that, the Oak Grove Elementary project, we would like to award to Media Construction and would recommend the board approve that for Oak Grove.
Okay. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor? 5-0.
Next on the request is item 11E, and this is our construction manager at risk for the Stagecoach Lane property. Of course, we have not officially approved the project at this point. The purpose in having a construction manager at risk using this building delivery model is that the contractor can work with the architect and do some value engineering really to give us the best price possible. That's one of the things that we do with a lot of our projects. And I feel really good about that process. I think it's helped us with budgeting. I think it's helped us save the taxpayer dollars. So we too would like to go ahead and move forward with the CM at risk for the Stagecoach, and that would also be Media Construction.
Okay, need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? 5-0.
Okay, item 11F, this is Peoples Elementary School Project Resolution. This is a good thing because what we need to do is get our final resolution payoff for all of our labor and material and services, and that way we can ask the state to go ahead and pay us the money that they pledge through capital projects. We do go out and try to get as much money as we can from the state of Georgia. We'd recommend the board approve the resolution as submitted.
All right, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the last item on the agenda, and I guess we could say we saved some of the best for last. It's really an information item. It deals with Rising Star Middle School, and it was a couple of months ago, actually, we had received notification, but we finally got the formal letter, and Rising Star was named a 2019 School to Watch. That's one of the highest recognitions a middle school can get. I see our principal back in the back, Miss Nancy Blair. I want to give her a special shout out. You actually have a redesignation of this recognition every 3 years. It is having gone through the process before, it is incredibly difficult to get it the first time, but every 3 years they go through a redesignation. And to the credit of the staff and certainly Ms. Blair, this is the fifth, I think, redesignation that Rising Star has had, and I think that may be one of the few middle schools in Georgia that has had that 5-year or 5-time designation. So, Ms. Blair, please, kudos to your staff and to your students and to your school community. That's something to brag about. Mr. Hollowell, that is all I have for you this evening.
All right, without objection, we're adjourned.
Good job, Mike.